Tod Machover, and I'm the composer of this opera. And I've kind of been, I don't know about the producer, but I've been sort of pulling this whole thing together for quite a while now. Big projects start in always unusual ways. This one was particularly unusual. A woman named Kauthar Alaboud, who had taken over as head of the board of the opera in Monaco, this place we are right now, decided a little over 10 years ago that she wanted to produce a really unusual opera, because there's actually a plaque outside saying that over about 100 years ago, in the early 20th century, Monaco itself and this building was actually a real hotbed of the arts. It's where Stravinsky and Diaghilev and Nijinsky all invented new dance forms and new ways of thinking about music and image and movement. Since then, over the last 100 years, Monaco is known for many things, but not really for innovation. So she was looking for a really innovative opera, one that would bring in new audience, would probably use technology in a very different way. And I think she went around to different opera companies and probably used words like, I want an unusual opera, I want a strange opera, I want a wacky opera, I don't know, whatever adjective she used, everyone I think told her to come and see me. So she ended up at my office at the Media Lab, and we had our first conversation a little over 10 years ago. And she said two things. It's actually interesting, both of them were about this building that we're in right now. First thing she said was, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but the Opera House in Monaco was built in the 1870s. And it was designed, it's funny, I've told this story before, but never standing right here. It was designed so that, you know, we've got the theater faces this way, the stage is here, and out that direction is the Mediterranean Sea. So, and we're on a very high promontory looking out over the sea. So she said, first of all, the opera's in this great location. Second of all, it was designed so that the entire side of the opera house actually opens up. And she said, you know, not only can you see the ocean, but actually all the doors open, and nobody's ever opened it up since the opening of this opera house in like 1879. So would you be interested in doing something? Maybe the finale, we could open up the opera and everybody would look outside or go outside. So I'm thinking, well, that's pretty unusual. I've had some crazy ideas, but you know. And then she said an even crazier thing, which was, so you open the opera house up, you look out on the sea, and maybe you could have a finale where the water comes alive and the Mediterranean Sea itself maybe comes up and is like a fountain, or maybe it's like a wall, and you know, it's this physical ocean that tells the story at the end of the opera. So I'm thinking, oh, I guess I met my match, because here's somebody whose ideas are, you know, as unusual as mine are. And no, we're probably not gonna open up the doors or do something on the sea, because I'm actually fairly practical, so I thought, you know, no place else in the world could you do that particular thing. But it's funny, because it did get me to start thinking about an opera that could partly tell a story through the animation of physical objects. A lot of my career has been spent thinking about how technology can increase the expression of human performers, the connection between human performers on stage and audiences, mostly for music performance. If you think about what technology's done over this last period, it's tended to kind of go the opposite direction. Most big theatrical shows, whether it's a rock show or a Las Vegas show, economically only work if you have an enormous hall. You know, a few thousand people's a minimum, but we're usually talking 10,000, 20, 30,000 people. And if you have a venue like that, the sound has to be just crushing. It's not very delicate, not very beautiful, but it's loud. And visually, usually the only way to make performers present in an enormous place is to have basically gigantic flat screens, simply some kind of video projection. And the effect, in my view, is that the performers on stage are reduced to kind of ant size. So when Kauthar started talking about this sea out here dancing around, I started thinking, well, maybe this is a project where the physical stage, the physical objects can come alive, and in doing so can take on a kind of human spirit, and not to translate literally like you take a rock star's face and just blow it up, but something so that the physical objects make you feel like you're very closely, intimately connected with a person. From that very first meeting, like 11 or 12 years ago, we talked about this opera house, its particular special feel about it, the fact of kind of transforming it into something radically new, and maybe the fact of this physical environment and an extended physical environment being part of the show. So that's where it all started. And I must say, this connection with Monaco and with this house and with this particular person, Kauthar Al-Aboud, has meant that we could dream really big. I mean, I always dream big, but it's really, really important to have a partner who's willing to help make some of these things real and has a conviction to stay with it through the twists and turns. I mean, this project not only was complicated to build, but stemming from an original idea like that, where it didn't start with a particular story, it didn't start with a particular melody, it started with really a challenge, and with this kind of physical world becoming real. To turn that into where we are today with a real opera and this set, and that was not a simple process, and it never would have happened. I mean, I'm a pretty stubborn person, so it wouldn't have happened if I didn't want to stick with it and didn't think we had something here, but it wouldn't have happened without the support of Kauthar Al-Aboud and these people in Monaco. So that's where it all began.